Okay, so welcome to Hindu Education Conference. My name is Nachiketa Tiwari. I am the coordinator of this conference. So I'll give you an overview. Why do we do this conference? How long has this been going on? And then we will go through several sessions which have been laid out, which are there also in the speaker's profile and the program schedule which you have. And we'll go like that. The fundamental purpose, so in this World Hindu Congress there are 7 tracks, now that all of you are familiar. There's a track on economy, there's a track on education, there's a track on media, another track on women, another track on youth, another track on politics, and the last one is on organizations. Because once we started this journey in 2014, we thought that unless Hindus organize along these 7 dimensions, a comprehensive gathering of strength of Hindus is not necessarily going to happen. And you have to organize in all these planes. It's not that I can not talk about economy, but I can only talk about education, but because it's the money which strengthens all the systems which are there in the society, and so on and so forth. The other thing which you will find in our conference in education track and also in other tracks is that at this World Hindu Congress, we do not focus only on Adhyatma, because somehow when we say, oh, this is a Hindu conference, so we will only talk about Atma, Paramatma, Adhyatma. But for that, we have a very large number of several spiritual organizations. There are several very eminent sadhus, sannyasis. Today we saw some of them on the stage. But because we are Hindus, we have to run schools, we have to run businesses, we have to run organizations. Hindus, as Hindus, should have a view on everything. They should know how to run good schools. They should know how to run good colleges. They should know how to run excellent business organizations. So the focus is not only what is said in Kathopanishad on Paravidya, but also on Apara Vidya, things which are related to the material universe, because that is what engages us most of the time, 90% of the time. So in that sense, you will see through the discussions which we have today, that our discussion themes are how to develop very good educational institutions, in a comprehensive sense. I grew up in a Jesuit school, St. Xavier's, Jaipur. They run wonderful educational institutions across the world, and they don't teach only Christianity. I learned physics, I learned chemistry, I learned English, I learned Hindi, I learned mathematics, and they did a very good job. So that is the vantage point from where we are coming. So I'll just walk you through this small presentation so that you get a comprehensive purpose of what this Hindu Educational Conference is, its history, and then we'll start the sessions. Next one. So this is just a picture. It's the organization of Hindu Education Board. This is the picture of our first conference, which was in 2014. Next one. Yeah. So this is the organization which runs this particular conference, Hindu Education Board. It's a duly registered non-profit organization, and I'm a part of it. If some of you want to be a formal part of it after this session, please let me know, and it will be a pleasure to have you there. Next one. This is our vision, quality education for all. Now, we do not necessarily run educational institutions, but our vision is that every Hindu, or not for that sake, not every Hindu, every person on this earth should have access to quality education, because that's what elevates us in all rings of spheres. It's a very ambitious goal, but that is what we want eventually humanity to be at. Next one. Next one. Yeah. Why do we need it? Why do we need a Hindu education board? So this is the first important reason. Quality educational system has to be available universally. Now we see very large drive within Bharat that people are leaving in very large numbers government education sector, both at the school level as well as at the college level, because there is a perception that government is not doing a good job in providing quality education. So there's an appreciation of this idea, and we have to explore how do we strengthen all our educational institutions, whether they are private sector institutions or public sector, how do we strengthen them? The second one is that Hindus constitute something like 16% of the global population. So we cannot outsource the job of education to some other country, right? We cannot say, oh, Americans will come and provide us quality education, because we are 16%. So we have to figure this out, how to make some of the best educational institutions across the world. And if we have to do that, we also have to set up benchmarks and standards for doing the same. What makes a really good educational institution? What kind of standards do we need? What kind of standards in areas of transparency, in areas of publications, and so on and so forth we need? So the third bullet is about providing leadership, so that we don't always refer to the MIT or to the Harvard or to the Oxford. We should have institutions better than those in our country. And enhances self-confidence, and it immunizes. This is extremely important. There are actually 2-3 sessions about it. It immunizes us. If you have your own standard, it immunizes us from external distortions. Next one. So just a glimpse of what we have done over last 14 years or so. So the first educational conference was held at India International Center in 2013. So this was just prior to the NDA government. NDA government came into 2014, but we started working. Our activities didn't start because NDA was in place. We started working prior to that. The second one was at the Ashoka in New Delhi. This was a part of first World Hindu Congress in 2014. Then in 2015, we had a series of meetings, and we made a very comprehensive, perhaps the first from the Hindu side, a very comprehensive policy document on what should be the higher educational policy for Bharat. And at that time, not many organizations were in this area. So we developed that policy. It was about 100 pages. We had a series of meetings, 7-8 meetings in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Chennai, in VIT, and very detailed discussions, and then we came up with this thing. And then this got formally launched in 2015 itself, with collaboration with FICCI, this industry organization, in their principal auditorium in New Delhi. 2018, we did the third Hindu Educational Conference as a part of 2018 Chicago. Some of you might have been there who were part of 2018 Congress. And then later, next one, 2019, we also got involved in developing another network. So this is called WHA, World Association of Hindu Academicians. So it's a loose network of Hindu academicians, and about 150 of these academicians from close to 15 different countries, they gathered in Haridwar, and this was another conference in Haridwar. Next one. Some more information about past activities. So what do you do with that policy? So then at that time, it just happened that government started looking for policy inputs on what should the new education policy be. And we made a formal presentation to T.S. Subramaniam committee, which was set up by the government of India. We were given about 10 minutes of time to present our ideas. But then they got so much engaged into the process that that whole exercise ran for about 2 hours. And a lot of those inputs are there actually in the current NEP of Bharat. We also provided some recommendation to this Kapil Kapoor's Committee on Bharat's Language Policy. This is still a work in progress. And then this T.S. Subramaniam Committee was replaced by another committee on new educational policy by Dr. Kasturi Rangan. And again in Bangalore, we gave very detailed presentation on what should India's or Bharat's education policy, especially in context of higher education, it should be like. And then of course, we gave several presentations to ministers, Smriti Irani, Prakash Javadekar, Ramesh Pokhriyal, and the current Prime Minister. A lot of inputs on Bharatiya knowledge traditions at Ministry of Education. Next one. Now you'll say, okay, you are doing all this, but what have you achieved? So some ideas. So we have now a very good network of some of the most prominent educational institutions in the country. A lot of you may not realize, but 90+% of education in Bharat, it comes through private sector, right? So unless we involve the private sector, the education system does not change. One of the best representatives of private educational sector, we have here Samir Sumaya. He runs Sumaya Vidya Vihar and Sumaya Vidya Vihar University, so he's there. And we made some arguments with the government that you cannot have a step brotherly or a step motherly treatment to one set of institutions. If they do a good job, you should help all educational institutions. In the new educational policy, they have done away with the affiliation system. Actually, they are phasing it out gradually. That was one very important input we provided in our presentations. A lot of things, when the new educational policy rolls out, you will see that they will be enforcing standards on fee structures, hiring practices, administration, because there's a lot of concern that a lot of educational institutions do dubious things in areas of fees, hiring practices, administration and so forth. So that is there. Earlier we used to have lots of deemed universities in Bharat. So one recommendation we made was it should not be, either you have a university or you don't have a university. There shouldn't be like half a university called a deemed university. So that is also they have gotten rid of. Regulation, funding and accreditation by separate bodies. So I don't want to go into this, but there used to be a big structure known as University Grants Commission. They used to provide standards, they used to provide money, they used to administer, and there was a lot of conflict of interest. And one important recommendation we made was that these things should be done by separate entities so that there's no conflict of interest. So again, all this is not about adhyatma. But ultimately, if you have good standards, good systems, then your educational system gets better. Next one. Bharatikaran of syllabus at university level. And in this area, we have done some more work which I'll talk about later. Next one. No, go back. Please go back. This one. Teaching of culture, spirituality, literature and arts of Bharat to all people at university level. And this is one requirement now, it is getting enforced across all universities, whether they are private or public. If you are doing a bachelor's in arts or sciences or technology, you have to have some understanding of Bharat's culture, ethos, civilization, what they now call it as IKS, Indian Knowledge Systems. So that has become like a compulsory thing. Quality improvement through certificate program, this is a work in progress, so I will not talk about. But the third bullet, I'd like to share some more details. Prior to 2021, no university in Bharat used to formally teach about Hindu Dharma. There was no university in Bharat. In Hindu studies, a Master of Arts in Hindu studies, there was no university who used to offer a degree in Hindu studies. No university. But there are several universities in the West, in Oxford, in Harvard, in Berkeley. There are programs, sophisticated programs in the area of Hindu studies. So if tomorrow someone wants to say, okay, what do Hindus think like? What are their values? What are their views on environment? What are their views on gender? What are their views on equity? And so on and so forth. All the answers come from the West. So some of us patiently worked out a very detailed syllabus on what a Master of Arts in Hindu Studies should be like. time kitna bacha? What's the time? 25. So I'll wrap up. So we worked out a very detailed syllabus, worked with several universities. So this was not coming through some government, you know, minister ne keh diya and everything got implemented. Ministry was not implemented. We worked with individual universities, and I'm proud to say that today, this Master of Arts in Hindu Studies is being offered by 25 plus universities. Some of them are the best universities in the country. We have Delhi University, they launched a formal program starting this year. Some of the earliest programs were launched by Banaras Hindu University, Lal Bahadur Sanskrit Vidyapeeth in Delhi, MS University, Vadodara, Bombay University, Kanpur University, and so on and so forth. As a part of this entire exercise, we also wanted to make sure that once you get a Master of Arts degree, then you should be able to do PhD. So to do PhD, you have to work with University Grants Commission, and you have to get this subject included into their list. So again, it's a seemingly straightforward process, but then you have to convince a lot of persons. So now it's formally listed as an area of study in UGC NET list. Some of those who are familiar with UGC NET, it's a formal area of study. Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, it's now offering 1-year diploma program. The first batch of degree holders in MA Hindu Studies, they just graduated a couple of months back. So the first batch is about 100 strong across the whole country. And maybe 2 years from now, we will have every year a throughput of something close to 1,000 people doing Master of Arts in Hindu Studies as the number of institutions which support this initiative grows. The plan is that now, starting this year, we'll be working towards having PhD programs in Hindu Studies in the same universities. So we have MAs, they get into PhD programs, and then they finally get into the academic world. So it's a chain of events, and that's how we are planning. So these are some of the things. We have 6 sessions today. If you can kindly share the first section. Next slide. So this is, and this is our first session. I'll just talk about it. This is Hindu art, Bharatnatyam, Kathak, Hindustani classical music, Carnatic classical music. You will see, or you may have not seen, but now that you are seeing it, you will now realize that a lot of art themes in these areas, Hindu art, it is slowly transforming. Some areas have already transformed. For instance, in Kathak, significant transformations have happened. South Indian music styles, dance styles, they are going through significant transformation, and this is basically a process of de-Hinduization. So in this session, we will talk about this particular theme. I'll just read it out. Hindus have contributed marvelously in all forms of art, dance, music, theatre, painting, sculpture, literature, poetry. In fact, we can boast of having some of the most sophisticated and rich theories for all forms of artistic expressions. Our civilization views art as an instrument to pursue shreyas. Modern education system views art from a political lens. In this whole process of education board, I started reading political science and all that, and now we are realizing this. It views as art as a tool for furthering ideological goals. In process, Hindu art forms are morphing into something that is totally different from what it was originally supposed to be. So, we will be starting our session. This is the theme of the first session. I will now request Shri Anil Raoji to come and introduce the chairperson, and the chairperson will take it from there. Thank you.
Namaste, Sadika, and good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to a young and dynamic chairperson for the next session on Hindu art, politics and ideology, Dr. Tripto Bakshi. He's the assistant professor at IIT Kharagpur, an alumni of ISI Calcutta, and he specializes in game theory, and he will be chairing the next session. Thank you.